As the images unwind, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind.
Percival, lovely to see you again. We met 20 years ago, I think it was. Well, I know what it was, actually, because you reminded me earlier. It was when Britney Spears released Toxic.
And we were drunk.
Oh, yeah, we definitely were drunk. So, listen, you're a rock singer.
Yes.
And now you've done an album of songs by Michel Legrand, who really has made French standards over the year. What is a rock singer doing songs from Michel Legrand?
Just because you feel good, still won't you hear me now?
Well, I chose to do this album from Michel Legrand because that's how I actually started singing. I started singing as a child, 4 or 5 years old, singing songs like these that came on the radio. My rock music came later in my life. I think I started singing rock when I was about 20. That came later, and I love it. But I figured now is the time to finally sing those beautiful songs that inspired me to become a singer. And the most beautiful of those songs were songs from Michel Legrand. And that's why I decided to do this type of album while I still have the voice.
Part of the beauty of his songs are the lyrics, which many of them were written by Alan and Marilyn Bergman. And they had a special relationship. Can you tell me about that relationship between Legrand and Marilyn Bergman and why you relate to it?
Alan and Marilyn Bergman have been married for over 70 years. They both come from New York. They go from the same neighborhood, a very Jewish neighborhood, and they both grew up singing and playing piano, not necessarily together, but that's what you did in the Jewish community back then. You were either a singer playing piano, or you were a tailor, or something along those lines, because they were a worker community. And then in the late 60s, they met Michel Legrand, whose name was everywhere because he was the new brilliant thing, visiting Los Angeles whenever he did. And they became fast friends, and I think it was in 1968, when he was staying at their house, basically living at their living room piano. And that's how Windmills of Your Mind was born. They were like, keep playing something, just play anything, come up with something that's beautiful, that evokes what Norman Jewison, who actually directed the film for which the song was written, needs something that evokes this mood. Steve McQueen steals all of that money, and then he flies away in the airplane. And he kept playing, and they kept saying no, and then at one point got that melody. And they said, stop, that's it. And then they went into a room without him and wrote the lyrics. That's how it was born. And this is the magic that continued for years and years, even until Monsieur Legrand's death.
You mentioned there's a connection between you and Michel Legrand because of your childhood. Are there other connections?
He was very intense. He lived for music. He was driven. And in my whole life with music, I've been driven by it. I have heard melodies in my head, sometimes familiar, sometimes something that wanted or needed to be created. And anything that got in the way of that was not good for a certain situation, because I continually, to this day, have music in my head. I hear the whole orchestras. I have a feeling that that is how he lived his life. But luckily, he was able to study at of course, some of the top schools in Paris, and became what he became. And I had to suffer until I learned how to use the music that was in my head. But I think the intensity of the music is something that we definitely have had in common.
You worked with Grant Mitchell on this album, and Grant Mitchell has worked with, thousands of really top artists, from Elton John to more contemporary artists today, just everyone, basically. How did it come about that you worked with him, and what do you feel that he actually brought to the music?
Well, Grant Mitchell and I met when I had my very, very first contract, it was with Sony London, which was then Sony London. And they put me together with him and Graham Dixon, who's sadly no longer with us, but he was wonderful. They were a production team. And I was 19 or 20 years old, and Grant was my same age, which impressed me that he was sitting in the other side, in the control room. But also, he was co-composer of some of the songs, and he was just amazing. He would sit at the piano and work out the whole arrangement within 10 minutes. And that impressed me. And that was, of course, many years ago. But we have kept in touch. We've done some spot work together, but when you're not living in the UK anymore, and it's very difficult to get together. And then I was thinking, who could I find to play piano that in the way that Michel Legrand would appreciate, while hoping that I was going to sing these songs in a way that Michel Legrand would appreciate. And I went over, I think maybe 20 different virtuosos, and then Grant popped into my head. I was like, I'm going to call Grant. That's going to be the easiest way to do it. He knows the songs, because I remember us many years ago actually rehearsing when he was trying to get my voice warmed up. He played the Summer Nose. And I was like, I know that. So we used the Summer Nose for my warm-up before I went in to record. And that's how it all came about.
So what did he bring to the music?
When you have a master like Legrand, you want to not only show respect for what they have done, but you also want to take it a step further. And this is what Grant was able to do. He was able to musically take some of the intricate chords, which are just wild, and he was able to give them different voicings. He was able to make something that lifted in the song lift even more to support my voice. And he gave the love and the respect that these songs deserve.
Now, you're in Cologne, and Grant Mitchell is in London, so how did that work?
Well, we talked about it, and Grant is in London, and I'm here, and we have a pandemic. And so I had to think of a way to record them at home and send them to Grant. So what I did was I learned all the songs. I had to first learn them a cappella. As difficult as these songs are from Michel Legrand, I'd have to have the music in my head. Every chord structure, every note, I'd have to have it in my head, because if I was only memorizing the text and the notes that I had to sing, it's rather one-sided and doesn't give you the freedom that you need to deliver to someone who's going to receive those vocals and then as well be able to give their input musically. And that's what I did. I learned sans toi in French, which was one of the hardest things. And I thought that was the hardest thing. And then I learned dis-moi, which is harder than sans toi. But I learned them in French. I took French lessons for this. And then, of course, the other songs, like I knew, but I didn't know them as well as I thought I did. And so I had to really work on those. And so I recorded them a cappella and then sent them to Grant. And he was like, I can work with this, definitely. And we've come up with an album that he has played with my vocals that have been sent to the UK, which is very, very strange.
So how did you manage to sort of create the right intonation and the right mood using a language that you don't speak?
In English, of course, it's very easy for me. I've been doing it my whole life. But in French, you have to change your mouth. You have to change your whole way of being. And you have to hit where the emotion is on which specific words. And it was very difficult to make it beautiful using a sound that I'm not used to. So it was a bitch, but I got it because I respect the language so much.
What is the concept for you for the videos? Not specifically each one, we go into those, but in general for the whole group of videos.
I wanted to tell stories that would reflect what was happening in the songs. And so from there, it was very simple to come up with, okay, let's tell a story. We've done 6 songs. Let's tell a story in 6 videos, but that's sort of like a short film. So each video will somehow lead into the next video. The meanings of the songs and the meanings of the videos will change a little bit, but it's going to be like watching kind of a short film.
So tell me about the video to Dis-moi.
Dis-moi, j'aurais tout fait pour toi. Je serais mort déjà bien avant toi, peut-être.
One of my best friends, a wonderful actor, Tim Alvin-David, played my boyfriend, which is very, very fun to do. And we're on a picnic, and we're telling the story of Dis-moi, which means tell me what's going on in your life. Tell me why we are so in love. And the words are so wonderful. And so it's scenes of us at a picnic, having wine, and two people who are madly in love.
One of the most famous songs of Michel Legrand won Best Oscar for that song off the film The Thomas Crown Affair. What did you conceive for that video, and how did you film it?
We thought about it and discussed it, and basically, okay, keep it Michel Legrand. And we walked through the streets of Paris and relayed what the song talks about. The song is basically about the beginning of your life when it's exciting, and then it starts winding down to the end. And that's what we did in Paris, and that was a beautiful shoot.
Now, when you see you on stage, you're a very vibrant, energetic, powerful figure on stage.
You think you're really fucking tall, but we all have dinners of foil. Dinners of foil.
Sometimes so energetic, it's a bit shocking, to be honest. So how are you going to go from that to perform on these songs on stage, which have a very different tone? What's going to be the difference?
Well, my performing it's interesting because I don't look at myself perform. I think I become the embodiment of whatever that specific song is or whatever my show is. Normally, of course, I'm a rock singer, but I come from musical theater. I come from pop as well, having grown up with that. So when I was doing musical theater, I learned how to act out songs. And then years later, when I started doing rock and roll is just like you just let it go, and it's like, and you're hungry for what you have written, because most of the rock shows I've done, I've written my own songs for that. And you're hungry for the audience, and you want them to be with you. But when I'm able to start performing these again, I'll have to pull back on my musical theater background, because I will not be rolling on the stage to perform these songs. I will not be screaming notes. I will be singing the song, because the songs I am singing are so perfect, they only need a voice to interpret them. So I will be standing there. I'll be standing there. I won't be still. I won't be still, but there's definitely a performance level that I will be expressing kin to the music, because the music is the most important thing for me.